Opportunity often comes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat. In the quiet moments before dawn, while the world still sleeps, a battle rages within the minds of those destined for greatness. It is in these sacred hours that empires are conceived, not in boardrooms or lecture halls, but in the silent determination of individuals who understand a fundamental truth. Defeat is merely the cocoon from which triumph emerges. This is not mere philosophy, it is the alchemical formula that has transformed ordinary men and women into architects of extraordinary lives throughout human history. Consider this truth. Every monument to human achievement began as a defeat. In someone's life, Thomas Edison's laboratory burned to the ground when he was 67 years old, destroying years of research and irreplaceable records. As the flames consumed his life's work, Edison simply remarked, "Thank goodness all our mistakes are gone. Now we can start fresh again." Within 3 weeks, he had established a temporary laboratory. Within a month, he had delivered his first phonograph. The inferno that would have broken most men merely cleared the path for Edison's next triumph. You see, the universe operates on principles as reliable as gravity, invisible forces that shape destinies. With mathematical precision, the principle we explore today is perhaps the most powerful: the transmutation of defeat into empire. This is not positive thinking or blind optimism, it is the practical application of mental alchemy that the world's greatest achievers have quietly practiced, while others remained oblivious to the power at their disposal. Right now, as these words reach you, your mind is processing approximately 2 million bits of information per second. Of these millions of impressions, your conscious mind can only focus on about 126 bits. This means that what you choose to focus on, be it opportunity or obstacle, victory or defeat, literally shapes the reality you experience. The empires of tomorrow are being built in the focused attention of today. Perhaps you've experienced defeat so profound it felt like standing in the ashes of your dreams. Perhaps financial ruin has visited your doorstep, or relationships have crumbled, or health has faltered. These moments, these apparent defeats, are not the end of your story, but rather the necessary catalyst for your transformation. Just as pressure transforms coal into diamonds, these challenges are forging within you the character required for extraordinary achievement. The ancient Stoics understood this principle. When they practiced premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, they didn't dwell on negative outcomes from fear, but rather to remove fear's power entirely. When you have mentally rehearsed the worst possible scenario and designed your response to it, you develop an immunity to defeat that few in this world possess. This is not pessimism, it is strategic preparation that allows you to act with unwavering resolve when others are paralyzed by circumstance. Henry Ford faced bankruptcy 5 times before revolutionizing transportation and manufacturing. Abraham Lincoln endured multiple business failures, a nervous breakdown, and crushing electoral defeats before ascending to the presidency during America's darkest hour. J.K. Rowling was destitute, divorced, and clinically depressed when she penned the first Harry Potter novel on cafe napkins. These individuals did not succeed despite their defeats, they succeeded because of them. Their challenges forged within them the precise qualities required for their ultimate missions. What separates these architects of empire from the countless others who surrendered to defeat? It is not talent, education, or circumstance. It is their relationship with defeat itself. Where others see finality, they see feedback. Where others see rejection, they see redirection. Where others see disaster, they see data. This perspective, transformation, is the foundation upon which all great achievements are built. Consider for a moment the most painful defeat in your recent memory. Perhaps it was being passed over for promotion, a business venture that collapsed, or a relationship that ended abruptly. Now imagine this defeat as a master teacher, one whose lessons, though harsh, contain precisely the wisdom you require for your next evolution. What is this teacher revealing about your mindset, your preparation, your strategy? What qualities is this experience developing within you that will prove essential for your future? Empire. The human brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, capable of forming more connections than there are stars in the observable universe. Yet most people use this miraculous instrument to ruminate on past failures or project future disasters, effectively programming themselves for mediocrity. The architects of empire, however, direct the same neurological power toward visualizing solutions with such clarity and conviction that their success becomes virtually inevitable. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper because he lacked imagination. Steve Jobs was ousted from the very company he founded. Oprah Winfrey was told she was unfit for television. These moments of defeat did not define them, they refined them. They understood intuitively what science has now confirmed, that neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections allows us to literally rewire our response to defeat. This is not about denying reality or suppressing emotion. Quite the contrary, it requires full acknowledgement of your current circumstances, while simultaneously holding an unshakable vision of your desired outcome. It is about existing in two worlds simultaneously, the world as it is, and the world as it will be through your conscious creation. This cognitive duality is the hallmark of visionary thinking. The ancient wisdom traditions spoke of this as the middle way, neither indulging in fantasies, disconnected from reality, nor becoming imprisoned by current limitations. It is in this balanced state that true creative power emerges. From this center point, you can acknowledge defeat without becoming defeat. You can face adversity without becoming adversity. You maintain sovereignty over your internal state, regardless of external conditions. Consider the metaphor of the oak tree within the acorn. The mighty oak already exists in potential form within the humble seed. It requires only the right conditions to manifest. Similarly, the empire you are destined to build already exists within you in potential form. Your defeats are not obstacles to this manifestation, they are the necessary conditions for its emergence. They are the soil, the rain, the sunlight that activate the dormant potential within. History demonstrates this pattern repeatedly. During the Great Depression, more millionaires were created than at any other time in American history. Why? Because economic devastation forced innovation and revealed opportunities that prosperity had obscured. The post-World War II economic boom followed years of scarcity and sacrifice. The technological revolution that transformed our modern world emerged from the Cold War's tensions. Time and again, collective and individual empires rise from the ashes of defeat. You must understand that the universe operates through polarities. For every front, there is a back. For every up, there is a down. For every problem, there is a solution waiting to be discovered. This means that embedded within every defeat is the seed of an equivalent or greater victory. Your task is not to escape defeat, but to extract from it the victory it contains. Andrew Carnegie, once the richest man in the world, began his life in abject poverty, working in a cotton factory for pennies a day. Yet he developed what he called a cosmic habit force, a way of thinking that magnetized opportunity and transmuted obstacles into advantages. Later in life, when asked about the secret to his success, Carnegie pointed not to his business acumen, but to his mental discipline, his absolute refusal to see defeat as anything but temporary. This perspective is available to you right now, regardless of your current circumstances. The law of cause and effect guarantees that when you change your relationship with defeat, you change the trajectory of your life. This is not theory, it is principle. It operates with the same reliability as the law of gravity. You need not believe in it for it to function. You need only apply it consistently to reap its rewards. Imagine for a moment that every defeat in your life has been perfectly orchestrated to develop within you the precise qualities required for your ultimate purpose. The rejection that crushed you developed your resilience. The financial setback honed your resourcefulness. The relationship that ended taught you self-reliance. None of these experiences were punishments, they were preparations. This perspective shift is not merely philosophical, it creates measurable changes in your physiology. When you view defeat as feedback rather than failure, your body produces fewer stress hormones like cortisol and more performance-enhancing hormones like DHEA and testosterone. Your immune system strengthens. Your cognitive function improves. You literally become physically optimized for achievement through this mental alchemy. The science of psychoneuroimmunology has demonstrated conclusively that your thoughts create corresponding biochemical reactions throughout your body. Victims of defeat marinate their cells in stress hormones that impair performance, while architects of empire generate biochemistry that enhances their capabilities. Same defeat, different biological response determined entirely by perspective. But perspective alone is not enough. The transformation of defeat into empire requires a systematic process, a technology of achievement that can be learned, practiced, and mastered. This process begins with absolute clarity about your desired outcome. Vague aspiration produce vague results. Specific visions, articulated with emotional intensity and reviewed daily. Rewire your reticular activating system, the filtering mechanism in your brain that determines what information reaches your conscious awareness. When Walt Disney was developing Disneyland, he visited amusement parks across America, while others saw only the rides and attractions. Disney's specifically programmed reticular activating system noticed what was missing: cleanliness, employee attitudes, family experiences. He didn't simply improve on existing models, he created an entirely new paradigm. Because his mental filter was attuned to opportunities invisible to others. This same mechanism operates in your life right now. If you program your reticular activating system to find opportunities within defeats. You will perceive possibilities that others miss entirely. The same circumstance that destroys one person's resolve becomes the catalyst for another's empire. Not because the circumstances differ, but because their perceptual filters diverge dramatically. Consider the case of Fred Smith, who received a C on his Yale term paper outlining the concept for Federal Express. The professor commented that while the idea was interesting, it was not feasible. Smith could have accepted this defeat as final judgment. Instead, he recognized it as merely one perspective, founded his company anyway, and revolutionized global logistics forever. The defeat of academic rejection became the foundation of a shipping empire. This pattern repeats throughout history with such consistency that it cannot be dismissed as coincidence. It reveals a fundamental truth about achievement. The path to empire never unfolds in a straight line. It zigzags through valleys of defeat and mountains of triumph, each apparent setback serving as the setup for unprecedented advancement. Richard Branson's first business venture was growing Christmas trees which rabbits ate. Before he could sell them, his magazine failed financially. His record store barely survived. Yet each defeat refined his understanding of business fundamentals and consumer psychology. Today, with over 400 companies in the Virgin Group, Branson embodies the principle of transforming defeat into diversified empire. The key distinction between those who build empires and those who succumb to defeat lies not in their experiences, but in their interpretations. Two individuals can face identical circumstances. One emerges stronger, wiser, more capable. The other emerges bitter, diminished, defeated. The external reality didn't determine these divergent outcomes, their internal reality did. Neuroscience now confirms what ancient wisdom traditions have taught for millennia. Your interpretations create neural pathways in your brain that either empower or limit you. When you consistently interpret defeat as temporary, specific, and externally caused while viewing victory as permanent, pervasive, and internally generated, you create a neurological infrastructure optimized for resilience and achievement. Martin Seligman, founder of positive psychology, calls this explanatory style, and his research demonstrates that it predicts achievement across domains, from sales performance to athletic accomplishment to academic success. Your explanatory style is not fixed, it can be deliberately reconstructed through conscious practice, until a resilient interpretation of defeat becomes your automatic response. This is the technology of mental alchemy, the systematic reorganization of your cognitive and emotional relationship with adversity. It is not wishful thinking, but the deliberate application of neuroplasticity to create thought patterns that serve rather than sabotage your empire-building efforts. Consider Colonel Sanders, who received over 1,000 rejections before finding a restaurant willing to use his chicken recipe. At age 65, when most are settling into retirement, he was sleeping in his car, traveling from restaurant to restaurant, facing daily rejection. Yet he interpreted each no not as personal rejection, but as refinement of his approach. His persistence ultimately built the Kentucky Fried Chicken empire, which he sold for $2 million in 1964, equivalent to over $16 million today. The relationship between defeat and empire becomes even clearer when we examine it through the lens of complexity theory. Complex adaptive systems, whether ecosystems, economies, or individual lives, require perturbation to evolve. Without disruption, these systems stagnate. Your defeats create precisely the instability required for breakthrough innovation and exponential growth. They are not random misfortunes, but evolutionary catalysts. This principle manifests physically in the phenomenon of hormesis, where exposure to low-dose stressors strengthens biological systems. Exercise damages muscle fibers, triggering hypertrophy. Intermittent fasting stresses cells, activating autophagy and cellular repair. Vaccination introduces weakened pathogens to strengthen immunity. In each case, controlled stress creates enhanced resilience. Your defeats serve the same function in your personal and professional development. Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba, was rejected from Harvard 10 times. He applied for 30 different jobs and was turned down for all of them, including KFC, where 24 people applied and 23 were hired, everyone except him. He applied to the police force and was told he wasn't good enough. Today, his net worth exceeds $40 billion. The pattern is undeniable. His string of defeats directly preceded his creation of an e-commerce empire. But simply observing this pattern is insufficient. You must develop a practical methodology for transforming your own defeats into the foundation of your future empire. This methodology begins with what we might call defeat intelligence, the ability to extract maximum value from every setback through systematic analysis and integration. When defeat visits you, as it inevitably will, resist the natural human tendency toward immediate emotional reaction. Instead, Create psychological space through deliberate breathing and centering. From this state of composed clarity, ask yourself, what is the empirical reality of this situation, separated from my interpretations? What specific lessons does this experience contain? How does this defeat reveal my current limitations and therefore my areas for growth? What capabilities must I develop to transform this obstacle into opportunity? This disciplined inquiry converts defeat from an emotional emergency into an analytical opportunity. It transmutes raw adversity into refined wisdom. Every defeat contains precisely the information you need for your next level of achievement, but this information remains inaccessible without proper extraction methodology. Elon Musk provides a master class in this approach. When early SpaceX rockets exploded on launch or landing, Musk didn't interpret these defeats as evidence of failure, but as crucial data acquisition. Each explosion provided invaluable information about necessary adjustments. Today, SpaceX dominates the global launch industry. Having revolutionized space economics, the empire was built directly upon the foundation of analyzed defeats. This analytical approach must be paired with emotional mastery. Defeat naturally triggers fear, shame, and discouragement, emotions that cloud judgment and drain energy. The transformation of defeat into empire requires not the suppression of these emotions, but their alchemical transmutation. Feel them fully, acknowledge their presence, then consciously convert their energy into determination, curiosity, and resolute action. The etymology of emotion reveals its true nature: energy in motion. Emotions are neither positive nor negative in themselves. They are neutral energy that can be directed toward constructive or destructive outcomes. The architects of empire don't experience fewer negative emotions, they simply become masters at channeling emotional energy toward productive ends. Howard Schultz, who built Starbucks into a global empire, was initially rejected by 242 investors. Rather than interpreting this as evidence of a flawed concept, he analyzed the specific objections, refined his approach, and channeled his frustration into methodical persistence. The emotional energy of repeated rejection became the fuel for relentless improvement rather than the justification for surrender. This emotional alchemy is available to you through consistent practice. When defeat generates anger, channel its energy into determined action rather than destructive reaction. When defeat produces fear, transmute it into heightened awareness and strategic caution. When defeat creates shame, convert it into humility and learning orientation. The emotional aftermath of defeat contains precisely the energy required for your next creation. If you master its direction rather than becoming its victim, the methodology continues with strategic reframing, the deliberate reconstruction of your relationship with defeat through linguistic and cognitive restructuring. The language you use to describe your experiences literally shapes your neurological response to them. When you describe a defeat as a failure, you trigger different neural pathways than when you describe the same event as feedback or data. This is not semantic trickery, but neurological reprogramming. The repeated use of empowering interpretative frameworks literally creates new neural connections that facilitate resilient responses to adversity. When you consistently describe defeats as temporary conditions rather than permanent characteristics, you are not merely changing words, you are rewiring your brain's default response patterns. Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx and self-made billionaire, grew up with a father who would ask at dinner, "What did you fail at today?" When she had no failure to report, he would express disappointment, explaining that failure meant growth through attempted expansion beyond current capabilities. This early reframing of defeat as evidence of courageous effort, rather than personal inadequacy, laid the foundation for her empire-building resilience. The final component of this methodology is visionary transcendence, the ability to maintain unwavering focus on your ultimate vision. Despite current defeats, this requires developing a relationship with your future self and future empire so vivid that it becomes more emotionally real than present circumstances. When your connection to this future reality becomes stronger than your attachment to current limitations, transformation becomes inevitable. Olympic athletes use this technique to maintain optimal performance despite setbacks. They visualize their desired outcome with such sensory richness and emotional intensity that their nervous systems cannot distinguish between visualization and reality. The resulting neurochemical state optimizes performance regardless of external circumstances. This same methodology can transform your relationship with defeat in any domain. Michael Jordan, perhaps the greatest basketball player in history, was cut from his high school team. Rather than accepting this defeat as final judgment on his athletic potential, he practiced obsessively, playing against imagined future opponents rather than dwelling on current limitations. His connection to his future self as a basketball legend outweighed his present identity as a rejected player. The rest is history. This visionary transcendence is not escapism, it is strategic neurological programming. When you connect with your future empire with consistent emotional intensity, you literally create neural pathways that guide your decisions and actions toward its manifestation. The defeat that seems insurmountable from your current perspective becomes merely an interesting plot point in the epic story of your inevitable triumph. The practical application of these methodologies: analytical extraction, emotional alchemy, strategic reframing, and visionary transcendence creates a comprehensive system for transforming any defeat into the foundation of your future empire. This system operates not through wishful thinking, but through deliberate rewiring of your neurological, psychological, and behavioral responses to adversity. Consider how different your life would be if you approached every defeat with this systematic methodology. The rejection letter becomes a clarifying data point rather than a crushing verdict. The failed relationship reveals critical growth areas rather than confirming unworthiness. The business setback highlights strategic adjustments rather than terminal incapacity. From this transformed relationship with defeat, empire becomes not merely possible but inevitable. The historical evidence supporting this methodology is overwhelming. John D. Rockefeller began his career during an economic crisis, the Panic of 1857. Rather than seeing only scarcity, he recognized that economic upheaval created unprecedented opportunities for those with strategic vision. While others retreated, Rockefeller expanded aggressively, laying the foundation for what would become Standard Oil and the largest personal fortune in modern history. The same pattern emerges in the trajectory of Arianna Huffington, whose second book was rejected by 36 publishers. She could have interpreted this as evidence of insufficient talent. Instead, she extracted the specific feedback contained within these rejections, refined her approach, and eventually built the Huffington Post, which she sold to AOL for $315 million. Her empire rose directly from the soil of analyzed defeat. This transformative methodology becomes even more powerful when integrated with an understanding of universal principles. Just as physical systems operate according to laws like thermodynamics and gravitation, achievement operates according to principles like polarity, rhythm, and correspondence. When you align your response to defeat with these principles rather than fighting against them, you access levels of empowerment unavailable to those operating from conventional understanding. The principle of polarity guarantees that within every defeat exists its opposite opportunity of equal intensity. The principle of rhythm ensures that periods of setback naturally precede periods of advancement. The principle of correspondence reveals that your external circumstances reflect your internal conditions, making internal transformation the leverage point for external revolution. These principles are not mystical but mathematical. They describe the underlying patterns of complex systems, including human achievement. When you interpret defeat through this framework of universal principles, you recognize it not as random misfortune, but as a predictable and necessary component of the achievement cycle. This recognition transforms your emotional relationship with defeat from resistance to alignment. Ray Kroc was a 52-year-old milkshake machine salesman facing health problems and financial insecurity when he discovered a small restaurant in San Bernardino, California. Most would have seen merely a modest hamburger stand. Kroc perceived the embryonic form of a global empire. McDonald's now serves over 69 million customers daily in over 100 countries. His empire emerged not despite his defeats, but directly through his transformed perception of apparent limitations. The same perceptual transformation is available to you in this moment. The defeats that currently dominate your awareness contain precisely the elements required for your next evolution. They are not obstacles on your path, they are the path itself. Every empire in human history has risen from the fertile soil of analyzed, integrated, and transcended defeat. Consider your current challenges through this evolutionary lens. The financial constraint is developing your resourcefulness. The rejection is refining your communication. The setback is revealing strategic adjustments necessary for sustainable success. Nothing is happening to you, everything is happening for you, providing exactly the conditions required for your transformation from ordinary achiever to empire builder. This perspective becomes even more powerful when you recognize that defeating experiences contain opportunities not merely for incremental improvement, but for quantum breakthrough. The constraints imposed by defeat often necessitate innovative thinking that would never emerge during periods of comfortable progress. The history of innovation demonstrates that breakthrough insights frequently occur not despite limitations, but because of them. When Apollo 13's oxygen tank exploded en route to the moon, the resulting limitations created what seemed like an insurmountable crisis. The solution emerged not from ideal conditions, but from radical constraint. Engineers had to create a carbon dioxide filter using only materials available on the spacecraft. This constraint-driven innovation saved the astronauts' lives, and became a textbook example of how limitations foster breakthrough thinking. Your current defeats are similarly creating constraints that, when properly leveraged, will force innovative thinking beyond conventional boundaries. The financial limitation that prevents execution of your original plan may drive discovery of a more efficient approach you would never have considered otherwise. The rejection that blocks your intended path may redirect you toward opportunities of greater magnitude invisible from your previous perspective. This is the counterintuitive truth about defeat and empire. The path of maximum resistance often leads to maximum reward. The challenges that most severely test your capabilities simultaneously create the conditions for your greatest contributions. History's most significant empires, whether commercial, artistic, or social, have emerged from periods of intense limitation precisely because these constraints demanded transcendent solutions. Madam C.J. Walker, born to former slaves and orphaned at age 7, faced poverty, gender discrimination, and racial prejudice, a trilogy of defeats that would have justified surrender. Instead, she developed hair care products for black women, built a manufacturing company, trained thousands of sales agents, and became America's first female self-made millionaire. Her empire emerged not separate from her defeats, but directly through her transformed relationship with them. The pattern perpetuates across domains and eras with remarkable consistency. Ludwig van Beethoven created his most profound musical compositions after losing his hearing, a defeat that would appear catastrophic for a composer. Helen Keller became a world-changing author and activist despite being both deaf and blind from early childhood. Their transcendent achievements emerged not despite these limitations, but through the transformed relationship with adversity they necessitated. This transformative relationship with defeat requires perpetual vigilance, the natural human tendency toward negativity bias giving greater attention and emotional weight to negative experiences than positive ones must be consciously counterbalanced through deliberate attentional control. This is not denial, but discipline. Focus the intentional direction of your most precious resource, your attention, toward opportunity rather than obstacle. Psychological research demonstrates that this attentional discipline creates measurable changes in brain structure and function. Consistent focus on opportunities within defeats increases gray matter in the prefrontal cortex, while reducing activity in the amygdala, literally rebuilding your brain to optimize resilience and innovation. The neuroplasticity that enables this transformation is available to you in every moment through conscious choice. Jeff Bezos left a successful career on Wall Street to start an online bookstore, a decision many perceived as defeat rather than advancement. During Amazon's early years, the company faced ridicule, skepticism, and financial instability. Bezos maintained unwavering focus not on these current limitations, but on his vision of transforming how the world shops. Today, with Amazon's market capitalization exceeding $1.5 trillion, the empire that emerged from these early defeats has revolutionized global commerce. The same transformative power is available to you right now, regardless of your current circumstances. The methodology we've explored: analytical extraction, emotional alchemy, strategic reframing, and visionary transcendence, provides a systematic approach to converting any defeat into the foundation of unprecedented achievement. This is not theory or philosophy, but practical technology for personal and professional revolution. Imagine approaching every challenge with unshakable confidence that it contains precisely the elements required for your next breakthrough. Imagine recognizing in real time that the rejection, setback, or limitation currently commanding your attention is actually the disguised catalyst for exponential growth. From this empowered perspective, defeat loses its sting entirely, becoming merely the necessary predecessor to triumph. This transformed relationship with defeat becomes self-reinforcing over time. Each successfully integrated setback strengthens your confidence in the methodology, creating a virtuous cycle of resilience. The defeats that once triggered days of emotional paralysis become merely interesting data points in your ongoing evolution. The psychological immune system, once developed, protects you from the debilitative effects of adversity that derail ordinary achievers. Defeat intelligence, the ability to extract maximum value from every setback, becomes a competitive advantage of incalculable worth. While others waste precious energy on resistance, resentment, and regret, you channel that same energy into analysis, adaptation, and advancement. The resulting efficiency differential ensures your continued progress, while others remain trapped in cycles of reaction and recovery. Steve Jobs was publicly fired from Apple, the company he co-founded, in what appeared to be a humiliating defeat. During his exile, he founded Next Computer and purchased Pixar, developing capabilities and perspective impossible within his previous role. When he eventually returned to Apple, These expanded capacities enabled him to transform the struggling company into the world's most valuable corporation. His greatest contributions emerged directly from his period of apparent defeat. The empire you are destined to build, whether commercial, creative, or contributive, contains within its blueprint the necessity of specific defeats to develop the precise qualities its realization requires. The challenges currently testing your resolve are not random obstacles, but targeted developmental experiences designed to forge within you the exact capabilities your future empire demands. This perspective transformation from seeing defeats as accidents to recognizing them as assignments changes everything. It converts the energy of resistance into the power of alignment. It transmutes the burden of victimhood into the privilege of conscious evolution. It transforms the apparent curse of limitation into the disguised blessing of focused development. Consider for a moment that everything you've experienced, every rejection, setback, failure, and disappointment, has been perfectly orchestrated to prepare you for a contribution only you can make. The unique pattern of your defeats has been developing within you a singular perspective and capability set that, when fully expressed, will create value impossible through any other path. This is not mystical thinking, but strategic reframing, the deliberate adoption of an interpretative framework that maximizes your psychological resources and practical effectiveness. Whether or not this perfect orchestration exists in objective reality is irrelevant. The methodology functions through its impact on your subjective experience and resulting behavioral choices. The defeats that have shaped your journey have simultaneously been shaping you, developing patience, resilience, resourcefulness, humility, determination, and wisdom impossible to acquire through continuous success. These qualities constitute the psychological infrastructure required for sustainable achievement. They are the hidden foundations upon which visible empires rest. J.K. Rowling describes her period of maximum defeat, divorce, poverty, and depression as liberating because it stripped away everything inessential, forcing focus on her singular talent for storytelling. From this period of intense limitation emerged Harry Potter, a literary and commercial empire that has sold over 500 million books and generated a multimedia franchise worth over $25 billion. Her empire rose not separate from her defeats, but directly through her transformed relationship with them. This transformative relationship with defeat becomes most powerful when integrated with unwavering clarity about your definite purpose, the unique contribution you are designed to make. When you recognize that your specific pattern of strengths, weaknesses, victories, and defeats has been preparing you for a singular mission, the apparent randomness of your journey resolves into coherent preparation. Napoleon Hill's research into the lives of the world's most successful individuals revealed this common thread. They maintained absolute clarity about their definite purpose while remaining flexible about the path to its achievement. This combination of fixed destination and flexible routing enabled them to extract value from every experience, including defeats that would have derailed those with less clarity about their ultimate objective. This clarity about definite purpose serves as the context that gives meaning to defeat. Without this framework of purpose, setbacks appear merely as random suffering. Within the context of purpose, these same experiences are recognized as necessary preparation, revealing their evolutionary value. The defeat remains identical, but its meaning, and therefore its impact, transforms completely. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her position as news anchor, with her boss calling her unfit for television. This defeat redirected her toward a talk show format that allowed her authentic strengths to emerge. Her subsequent empire spanning media, publishing, and philanthropy with a net worth exceeding $2.5 billion grew directly from this redirection. Without that initial defeat, her ultimate contribution would have remained unexpressed. The empires of tomorrow are being forged in the defeats of today. The financial constraint currently limiting your options is developing the resourcefulness required for sustainable wealth. The rejection currently questioning your value is refining the communication skills necessary for widespread impact. The failure currently challenging your confidence is revealing the strategic adjustments essential for enduring success. This is the alchemy of achievement, the transformation of apparent lead into actualizing gold. It occurs not through denial of current reality, but through its complete integration within a larger context of purpose and possibility. It requires neither blind optimism nor toxic positivity, but clear-eyed assessment paired with transcendent interpretation. It exists already in potential form, requiring only your evolved perspective to catalyze its emergence. The methodology we've explored provides the practical framework for this evolution, converting raw adversity into refined advancement, apparent misfortune into disguised opportunity, seeming obstacle into hidden advantage. You stand now at a decision point. Will you continue interpreting defeat through conventional lenses, experiencing the limitation such interpretation inevitably produces? Or will you adopt the alchemical perspective that has empowered history's greatest achievers, accessing the transformative potential defeat contains? The empire awaiting your creation hinges upon this fundamental choice. Choose wisely, for in this choice lies the difference between ordinary achievement and extraordinary contribution. The defeats that have shaped your journey have simultaneously been shaping you, developing precisely the qualities required for your unique mission. They are not random misfortunes, but targeted developmental experiences designed to forge within you the exact capabilities your future empire demands. As you move forward, remember that every empire in human history has risen from the fertile soil of transformed defeat. The business empires of Ford, Disney, and Amazon, the creative empires of Rowling, Beethoven, and Spielberg, the social empires of Gandhi, Mandela, and King. Each emerged not despite initial defeats, but directly through the transformed relationship with adversity their creators established. Your empire awaits similar transformation. The specific defeats you've experienced have been developing within you a singular capability set that, when fully expressed, will create value impossible through any other path. Your unique combination of strengths and challenges, victories and setbacks, has been preparing you for a contribution only you can make. This is not philosophical abstraction, but practical reality. The defeats that have tested your resolve contain precisely the elements required for your ultimate triumph. When you approach them with the methodology we've explored, extracting their wisdom while maintaining connection to your larger purpose, you convert apparent obstacles into actual advantages, transforming what would derail others into the foundation of your future empire. The choice is yours in every moment to interpret defeat as evidence of limitation or invitation to expansion. Choose expansion consistently, apply the methodology diligently, maintain connection with your ultimate purpose persistently, and the empire you are destined to build will emerge with mathematical certainty. This is the alchemical formula that has transformed ordinary individuals into extraordinary achievers throughout human history, and it awaits your application now.